Hello again, folks. This isn't an unboxing, but it is a look at a lot of stuff I got from Facebook Marketplace. I got it a couple weeks ago. I haven't read it all, but I got it a couple weeks ago, which is why it's not an unboxing video or unpacking video. But what I wanted to show you, again, if you're looking for really cool vintage stuff, Facebook Marketplace is a great place to go. I got these all from the same seller on Facebook Marketplace, all together in one lot. Nice big box of comics came in my mail. Marketplace is still a very safe place to order through the mail. And I just wanted to show you guys this real quick. I'm going to put these back in order. I just finished reading this miniseries. This is from 84, 85. Judge Dredd's Crime Files, the whole 6-issue miniseries. So this one specifically reprints short stories, one-shot individual short stories from 2000 AD magazine in comic book format. So each one has several short Judge Dredd stories, and they're all really good sci-fi, futuristic, crime, superhero, borderline satire, and a lot of it. I mean, there's always a heavy dose of satire in Judge Dredd, and I think that's what makes it popular. August 1985. And so a lot of really good stories in here. Really fun, really entertaining. This is the original stuff created by John Wagner. And this first issue has a story illustrated by John Byrne. So this is some really early Byrne work on Judge Dredd, which is also, Byrne is one of my favorite artists. The rest of these stories are by other artists, including Ron Smith, who was an early Judge Dredd artist. But I want to say there is a lot of work by Alan Grant as well. And John Wagner and Alan Grant are a great team together. And I believe they were the original Judge Dredd team, but I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone out there who sees this video can correct me in the comments. But it's great, and it's something that I'm really actually taking a lot of inspiration from this. With the old school coloring, I do prefer doing old school coloring. If I'm going to do straight up traditional comics with black line work, I still like to follow the old rule before everything got entirely digital, that the black line work and the shading in particular should all look good and correct before you add the color, meaning that the colorist shouldn't be doing a lot of the heavy lifting for creating perspective and shadow with the coloring. Not that there's anything wrong with colorists that do that. I just don't think that you should leave that up to the colorist and therefore potentially leave some gaps in the work when you're inking. But anyway, great stuff. I just finished this one. Also got the entire 6-issue miniseries of Judge Dredd, the early cases. Again, it's a reprint series from, this one's from 86, and this one is various adventures of Judge Dredd from his early appearances in 2000 AD. And again, we've got Carlos Ezquerra and Ron Turner. On the art, script is John Wagner and Pat Mills. Some really fun stuff. And I wanted to actually point out, I know the ads in the other series had something really interesting I wanted to point out, and I want to see if they have it in this too. Okay, so here's an ad for Judge Dredd, the ongoing series. And this is something Eagle Comics did back then, and it's funny because I really don't think of the type of paper being as big of a deal that long ago, but I noticed in their ads, 32 pages, Baxter Paper Monthly. Baxter was a paper manufacturer, and it was a very common type of paper to use. You notice this one, Judge Dredd, 32 pages, Mando Paper Monthly. 32 pages, Mando Paper Monthly for 2000 AD Monthly, when they did the comic book series version of the magazine. And I know if I look further, there will be another ad for one that has Baxter paper as well. And so this was something that was being emphasized, and I'm guessing relating to quality at the time, that people had preferences of type of paper. And of course, today we're used to very modern, slick, glossy type pages. But in these days, it was still very much newsprint style paper. And Baxter paper definitely has a particular smell as it ages. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But you can tell that it's that type of paper and that it's aged a bit. Here, this ad is for Strontium Dogs. 30 pages, Mando paper monthly. But no, it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad smell. It's just that there's a certain smell to the paper. Today, I find in modern comic printing, it's more the ink that I can smell. And there's a particular smell to the different types of inks that are used. And so small run graphic novels or comics from small presses, I can tell who has printed it by the smell of the ink. And again, here's another part of that lot, Judge Dredd in the Judge Child Quest. Now, growing up, I had, I think, 3 copies of the 3rd issue of this series. It's a 5-issue miniseries, or they've called it a mega series here. Again, Eagle Comics, for the time that they were publishing, did a lot of really unique and kind of cool things and played around with titles and whatnot that you wouldn't see other publishers doing for another 20 years in some cases. But this is one where I always wanted to read the rest of this story, but I never could find any of the other issues to this series. So I had like 3 copies of issue 3 and no copies of anything else. So this is its own complete story, original Judge Dredd story that's been collected into what they call the mega series. And this is from '84. And again, the old school line work and shading with the flat colors is something that I'm going to actually try to integrate into some of my newer comics projects in the future again. Right now I'm working on a black, white, and red series, so it won't be that, and that's an Orlock graphic novel I'm working on right now. The first chapter is actually on my website if you want to read it. But again, this is something that I've looked for a long time, and they're not totally mint, but they are in still really good shape for the age. They've been well taken care of. I can tell that the seller took care of these comics really well. And then, Pièce de Résistance. This is a nice stack of Judge Dredd comics. And I'm not sure if it was a different series or if they changed the title partway through, but give me one moment. I forgot how many were in here. So this is a lot of various, the Law of Dredd, or the Law of Judge Dredd comics, Judge Death here on the front cover. And I believe these are reprints from 2000 AD, but I'm not 100% sure. I just saw this and said, oh, I think I'd like to get this. And so there's a stack of issues starting with number 3. They're not all consecutive. And they're not all mint either, but they're still in really good shape for their age. They've been well taken care of. And it looks like, and this was with Quality Comics. So it's still the Law of Judge Dredd. What year is this? I'm looking for indicia or copyright info. Quality was based in New Jersey. They probably licensed it. Printed in Spain. We really don't have a copyright year on here. That would make me wonder if it's properly registered or if it's properly protected. But it might be because of the time it was. But yeah, they licensed this to reprint from SQP Inc., which I could be wrong. I thought SQP was based in Europe, but maybe not, because it says Toms River, New Jersey here. It's very confusing. But Judge Dredd is definitely a British comic, and they've got information here for US distributors and UK distributors, but they don't have a copyright year or the year it was published. Early work from Brian Boland on art, Mike McMahon, script by Pat Mills. At any event, it looks like around somewhere between issue 6 and issue 10, the title changed from The Law of Dredd to just Judge Dredd. So very cool stuff. I'm just surprised that there's no year in here. Really surprised. So anyway, stack of Judge Dredd comics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 issues of Judge Dredd from the mid-80s. So again, real good deal on this. Most of these were separate lots. Each miniseries was, I believe, $10. This lot was $10, I think. So like, I spent $40, got this stack of Judge Dredd comics. Not only that, but the marketplace seller threw in the Judge Dredd 90s movie with Stallone adaptation for free. They knew I was interested in Machine Man 2020, threw in the 2-issue series of that for free. And to my surprise, this entire massive omnibus of Strontium Dog, Search, Destroy, Agency Files 3. I've looked at these trades before. I've been interested in them. I've never read them. I have read a couple of individual Strontium Dog comics that I got in different lots and boxes when I was a kid, but I never had enough to read an entire series through. I decided to read this first when I got them and thoroughly enjoyed it. Really enjoyed this. In fact, it's a book I would think could be easily turned into a trilogy of movies. You doctor up the origin story just a little bit to include some of the earlier comics to explain Strontium Dog's origin, but I really like the stories in this. And he's got multiple sidekicks in these stories that are comic relief and really endearing characters. And again, this is by John Wagner and Alan Grant, the same guys who did a lot of Judge Dredd work, did a lot of work in 2000 AD. All these stories are reprinted from 2000 AD. They're in black and white as opposed to color, but that didn't interfere with my enjoyment of the story at all. So really good stuff. Again, all on Marketplace, very reasonably priced. Big kudos to the seller who sent me this stuff for free as part of the order. Again, I super appreciate that kind of stuff. Whenever I can, I try and include the odd freebie in an order too, but this was going above and beyond, especially with this giant Strontium Dog book. Just all around, very happy with this, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing it. That's my haul this time, and I'll be back. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content in my own comic work, go to mikegagno.ca and you can see all the newest material I have posted, and you can even creep around and find the archives to look at all the stuff I've been posting for, I don't know, this one has stuff I maybe for the last 10 years. It is a newer platform I'm using, so there's a lot of old stuff that was on my older websites that isn't up now, and I'll get around to posting it again in the future. Anyway, Take care. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to visit mikegagno.ca. Thanks.